Okay, so we've had a look at the basics of stroke formation, how to make your downstrokes, which are the thicker shades, and the hairlines, which are the thin, delicate strokes made away from you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is get on to page 2, which is letter construction. So the way we make letters is we take the strokes that we're now all practiced in, we look at the letter that we're about to make, we isolate those strokes that we know how to construct, and then we put them all together in a form that looks like a letter. So what do we mean by this? Let's take the first example on page 2, and that is the letter M for Mike. Okay, I'm going to use a pencil for this. You can use a biro or a pen. Just a word on that, it's probably worth knowing. I use these things called clutch pencils. You press them and they release a lead. I just like them, they're very versatile. They feel nice, they're quite weighty. I also use these Pigma Micron Fineliners. I think they're made by Sakura, and they come in a variety. I don't know if you can see this on the overhead. They come in a variety of nib sizes. So I think from 0.05 up to 0.8 or thereabouts. It might be 0.005 up to 0.08. But anyway, they go from really thin to not quite so really thin. They're fantastic. They're great if you want a bit of variation in your line width. You can use these things. They're also fantastic. They're called Pentel sign pens. And again, very affordable. And they come in a variety of shades. And I think you can get finer ones as well. So I've got green and gray, and they come in black and red, I know, but probably other colors too, I'm not absolutely sure. So anyway, back to these clutch pencils. Letter construction. Let's start with the letter M, the minuscule or lowercase m. So in modern calligraphy, we would be looking at making a letter something like this, okay? So M is made up, so then what we're going to do is we're going to isolate each stroke. So let's use something else. So we're going to isolate this shape here. Then we're going to do this one here, and then finally this one here. So let's look at that. This stroke plus another one of those, and then finally an exit stroke. All put together gives us that M for Mike shape. Okay, so what do we mean by that? In terms of constructing the lowercase or minuscule m, we make this shape, which is the entry stroke, hairline, descender, hairline, overturn, descender again, and then finally we lead out, descender, and exit stroke. So everywhere that I say descender, we put in that shade. So the downstrokes are always thicker. And that means when we put together each one of these strokes, it ends up looking like this. There we go. And as we said before, we put the second stroke on the shades, always on the same side. And that just means that this space here has a better chance of staying even. Okay? And that means that it looks consistent and more beautiful. And here's our baseline, and all the cutoffs at the bottom and this return loop here all hit the baseline. Now in modern calligraphy, we'll get to it in a minute, there's something called the X height, which would be about here. In modern calligraphy though, unlike something such as copperplate, which is a lot more formal, you don't have to hit the X height every single stroke. You can break the X height, you can go through it, you can go under it, you can keep below it. But anyway, that's something that we'll cover later on. So the second letter is minuscule B for Bravo. And in modern calligraphy, we would be constructing it in this sort of fashion. Okay, maybe I should do that a bit heavier so that you can see it properly in the camera. Okay, so there you'll notice that most of our lines are done in the same weight or heaviness. So again, let's break it down. Okay, so the first shape is here. So we lead in and over and down. Okay, remembering on the down stroke to put in our second line on the left. The next stroke is here. So we're just looking at making the bowl of the B, and it's this kind of shape. So here the downstroke, you're probably getting good at this, guys, of sort of instinctively knowing where to put in the second stroke. So loop, descender, plus bowl equals, I bet you never thought you'd be doing maths in calligraphy, equals something that looks like this. And we put in our shades, and that's what we get. Okay, so now we can do M, and we can do a B. There we go. And the final example for minuscule letters on page 3 is the letter R for Romeo. So, something to say about the letter R. Normally, in everyday handwriting, it's constructed like this. That's how we recognize an R. It's very difficult to join this construction of R to another letter. So it either has to stay out on its own, where it might look a little bit strange in the word burn, or we can make it like this in a more cursive style. So it comes up, across, and then down, and it leads out with a hairline. So in the word burn, it's much easier to join that style of R than it is that style. You can see it just flows a bit better. Let's get some fresh paper just to show you how to construct lowercase r, and then I'll leave you alone for a minute. So we're going to be looking at this style, sort of modern calligraphy looking R. And again, like the B, there are only two basic strokes that fit together to make it. There's this one here, that section. So it's done like this, hairline, loop, and over. This line here, you can make ever so slightly thicker. You don't have to. And then the second stroke is this bit here, the descender. And we make that by just coming down and then exit. And then we put in the second line, again, always on the left. So this plus this just goes to make the letter R. And there we go. So there are lots of other letters, obviously. That's only 3 out of 26. You'll find the exemplars, they start on page 4, I believe, of your download from Incredible.com. Have a look at them, get used to actually seeing the letters and breaking them down, deconstructing them, and then making those basic strokes and putting them all back together again, okay? So that's the end of that part. Have a look at page 2, the minuscules or lowercase section, and then we'll get on with the majuscules or uppercase.